Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. Today I felt like making a video for ESG football because I feel like there's nobody that has really made a helpful video. No offense to any other ESG creators out there, but this game can be very confusing and I had to figure a lot of this stuff out on my own. So hopefully this will help all you beginners out there looking to get into this game. Hopefully it'll help you get better, get your footing, understand how everything works a little more. So firstly, I want to remind everyone this is not Madden. It's still football, but there are a lot of things it does very differently. The passing, rushing, route running, everything down to the O and D line work very differently. Secondly, builds. I'm not going to go in depth with them here, but when you create a player, you'll see different colored play styles for each part of your player's game. Red is for QBs, green's wide receivers or for receiving, orange is for running backs or rushing. Pink is your physical attributes, yellow is special teams, brown is for coverage, purple is D-line stats, dark blue is O-line, and light blue is tackling. So now that we've gone over that briefly, there's a few more tips that go for any player, regardless of position. The main one, do not always hold sprint. It makes skill moves a detriment in most cases, and stamina can drain pretty quick if you don't use it wisely or take too many hard hits. That being said, stamina replenishes pretty quickly if you have high endurance, but you just have to keep track of that depending on your player stats. And my last blanket statement tip for every role is whenever you have the ball and you're running with the ball, hold R1 or RB if it's in your right hand to protect the ball, stop it from fumbling on big hits, or L1 and LB to protect it on your left side. So with that out the way, let's get into everything in more depth. Tip number 1, get familiar with the controls. And what I mean by that is just go to the pause menu, look at the controller mappings, try to remember which button does what. We'll go into more detail about that here in a sec, but I just wanted to put that out there because I had to do that to figure out a lot of this on my own. While you're in there, you might also notice that there's a move list for each category, but we'll go into that in more depth once we go over each of the positions. So we're going to start with quarterbacks because whether or not you want to play them, you might have to at some point. Because in this game, when you play in public lobbies, it'll always make the person with the best QB stats be the quarterback and the play caller, even if they're not technically a QB. If you are playing QB, here's some basic tips that I think will help you get started. So I just also want to point out, I'm not the best quarterback by any means. I'm very much a Jameis Winston type. So maybe I'm not necessarily the best with QB advice, but I can at least tell you the fundamentals. Firstly, there's 3 different types of passing. Just like in Madden, we got lob, standard, and bullet passes. But unlike Madden, they work very differently. So first, we'll go over the lob. You're going to hold L1 or LB and press your receiver's icon. These are great and pretty much necessary for going over the top of the defenders, getting those deep throws going. And if you place it well, it's almost a guarantee you'll pick up a good chunk of yards. But if you don't place it well, it's almost a guaranteed pick. So next, we'll go over the standard touch pass. Pretty simple. Just hit the receiver icon, nothing else. Your standard just from you to the player. Gets it out quick and precise, but it can be pretty easy to pick if you throw it in the wrong spots. Thirdly, the bullet pass. You'll hold both triggers for it. L2R2 on PlayStation, LTRT on Xbox, and then you'll press the receiver icon. The name's pretty straightforward too. I'm sure everyone knows what a bullet pass is. You just chuck the ball with the force of John Henry at your teammate, but they'll need to be ready for it. So make sure you're communicating when you throw that bullet pass because it can be pretty hard to catch if they're not ready. Next, we're going to go over the play calling. So as a QB, you're going to be the one calling the shots, calling the plays. So it's important that you mix up your plays, make sure you're keeping track of who is on what, whenever you're looking at the playbook, and by that I mean like where people are lined up in your formation, to try to find them the best matchup possible. Because at the end of the day, that is your job as a quarterback and a play caller, whether you're on offense or defense. You need to try to put your guys in the best position to do well. Also, as a quarterback and play caller, you can never really be sure that people are actually going to run the route. So it's always good to communicate if they're not, or even if they are, and you want them to run something else, let your teammates know. If you feel like you're playing with people who aren't really following your routes a lot, it's always good to have some blanket plays for you, just in case you need to get out of the pocket, get some extra yards. A QB sprint out is usually a good option for that. As for defensive play calling, you always want to keep an eye on where your teammates are, where you are in the formation, and try to limit the amount of mismatches you guys have on defense. So if you notice one of your teammates is getting burned a lot up top, maybe put a safety out there to try to help him cover that guy. Or there are some plays that you can double team people with if you want to find those. But I usually find a deep safety to be more helpful for helping out people who aren't able to cover their man very well. And lastly, for quarterbacks, we're going to go over the run pass option because this took me way too long to figure out, but it's actually super simple. So this tip's not going to be a long one. Whenever you run an RPO, you want to hold R2 or RT to keep the ball in your hands, and just don't push anything if you want your running back to take the ball. And that about wraps it up for the fundamentals on quarterback play. Alright, next we're going to go over wide receiver play, which is most people's favorite position, let's be honest. We'll go over the catches, how they work, and route running. So firstly, catches, we got 3 types. Just like Madden, we got possession, rack, and instead of spec catch, it's miraculous catch. So just like Madden, X on PlayStation or A on Xbox is your possession catch. Square or X on Xbox is your rack catch, and then triangle or Y are your miraculous catch. Secondly, and the most important tip that I have for any receiver in this game, is the man underneath almost always gets the ball when it's in the air. And I'll explain what I mean by that. Let's say you're running a deep slant or an in route and you have a defender close by. If the quarterback is throwing to you and you are underneath the defender, close, like in between the defender and the QB, then the priority will go to you. However, if the DB cuts underneath you, then it is almost always going to be a pick. So make sure to understand where the coverage is when you think you're open. For the next part of wide receiver play, we're going to talk about the route running. So for the route running, if you go back to the pause menu that I mentioned earlier, you'll see a little move list that will tell you all the different cuts you can make and stuff like that. But we're not going to go over all that right now because it's a lot. So I'm just going to go over the basic ones. If you're really good at route running in this game, you're going to be basically unguardable. So just to cover the basics, to do a simple route cut, just like a one and done kind of cut when you're running your route, you're going to hold R1 or RB and then move your right stick in whichever direction you want to cut. You can also do a stutter step, which is kind of similar, but it's like a hezzy move. You hold L1 for that and move your right stick. And my last tip for receivers is, please, for the love of the pigskin, just run your route. Just run your route, at least for the first few plays, first drive, just to kind of gain some synergy with your QB. Because remember, at the end of the day, you're probably playing with people that you don't know. They don't know what to expect of your play, and vice versa. So there are times that you can really just do your own thing, route people up, but you got to make sure you're communicating with your QB that that's happening. And if you're not, then I would suggest only like a 2-cut max on your routes, because any more than that and you're just going to confuse the heck out of your quarterback. Bonus tip that took me too long to figure out was, if you want to make your cuts, doesn't matter what kind, stutter step, normal route cut, you can't do it if you're holding the cut button pre-snap. So if you're holding R1 or RB before the ball gets snapped, then it won't let you make your little route cuts. You have to wait until it's snapped to hold the bumper and then move the right stick. So now for running back play. The main things you're going to need to know as a running back is when to block, how to block, and jukes and other skill moves. Firstly, anytime you're lined up, doesn't matter what position you play, if your route is white, you immediately block whoever's in front of you. If it's a blue line, it's a block and go. Stay to block for a sec if you're needed, run out to catch if not. To block, you need to hold L2 or LT to strafe, and then hold triangle or Y to do a standard block. There are other types of blocks, but we'll talk about that more with linemen. Lastly, jukes and skill moves are the key to being a great running back. To do a juke move, move the right stick to the right, in whichever direction you want to juke. You gotta move it 2 times, so like double tap right to juke right. To spin, hold LT or L2 and move the right stick same way 2 times in your desired direction. It's also important to keep in mind that if you're sprinting, these are going to be pretty much useless. You can't really do these skill moves in a full sprint, so make sure that you're letting go of the sprint before you try to do these. And to truck as a running back, you just push triangle or Y. For a stiff arm, X or A. It's also worth noting you can't do either of those full sprint too. So now we're going to talk about defense. Angles, how to tackle, and understand coverages. In this game, angles are everything. If you don't have the right angle for a tackle or even a block, it's most likely going to get broken and cost you precious stamina. In ESG football, we got 3 types of tackles: standard, strip, and hit stick. To perform a normal tackle, you're going to hold X or A on Xbox. To strip tackle, you're going to hold R1 or RB. To hit stick, you just press your right stick up. Standard tackles are best for pursuit. Strip tackles are high risk, high reward, and hit sticking can drain stamina if you miss, but will drain more from your opponent if you hit. Now for coverages, man to man is when you have a line connected to your matchup. You are to follow them to the ends of the earth until the play's over. Zone gives you a little area to watch over like a hawk, shown by large circles pre-play. You cover anyone who comes in or near your zone and don't let them get the ball under any circumstance. If you have a deep zone, one of those dark blue ones way at the back of the field, play it kind of like it's man, but a little bit further off, because you're probably going to have to follow whoever that receiver is into your zone. And it's also important to remember the man underneath gets the ball whenever you're fighting for it in the air, just like we mentioned with the receivers. Now for linemen, defense, offense, and their lineman moves. I'm just going to put both sides in this category because, let's be real, not many people want to be linemen. On defense, you have finesse and power rush moves. I'm not super familiar with them because I don't have a lineman. I don't really play the line very much. But I do know, and I can tell you the fundamentals. So, to do a bull rush move, you need to push the right stick up 2 times before engaging your blocker. If you don't do these moves before getting to your blocker, you're just going to get blocked. And then for finesse moves, it's best to look at the skill move tree and your options and figure out what those are. For the offensive side of being a lineman, your job is just to block. Just like we went over running backs, you're going to hold L2 or LT and triangle or Y to do a standard block. We also have pancakes and cut blocks, which never really work out too well for me, so I usually just go with the standard block. But to do them, you push the right stick up 2 times for a pancake and down 2 times for a cut block. And I think that about wraps it up for the basics. So let me know if I left anything out in the comments. Feel free to share your own tips if you have any that I missed. If you guys want to see more in-depth videos about each position, please check out the other ESG creators who already have put out good in-depth build videos like Jurisco. And with all that said, I hope you all found this helpful, and I wish you the best of luck out there on the field.
Nah, fuck. I got cooked.